Are you aware of the thousands of Ugandan children being abducted from their homes? Do you know that they're being forced to fight as soldiers? They are being forced to mutilate and brutally disfigure the faces of their victims. They are even being forced to murder their own families. All of these horrible crimes are at the hand of a man named Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army. How can you stop this injustice, you may be asking yourself? You can purchase the Kony 2012 Action Kit, raise awareness, and make Kony famous for his crimes. Because raising awareness by posting on your Facebook page and buying merchandise is the best way to support a cause, right? Wrong. Activism implies being active and taking action. And clicking your mouse to share a video or clicking your mouse to order a t-shirt is not being active in any way. If all of your social media pages were deleted and all your clothes were stolen, would people still know what you stood for and what you supported simply by how you lived your life? Good evening. My name is Nikki Hawes, and I'm here today to tell you that you are not an activist. The Kony 2012 campaign and the nonprofit organization Invisible Children, which launched it, are prime examples of what activism isn't. Activism is not simply about raising awareness, because ultimately, awareness alone does absolutely nothing. A whole nation can be aware of a new outbreak of the plague, but that does not solve anything unless there are steps and actions taken to address the cause and stop the problem. And the reality of the Kony 2012 campaign is that it is an illegitimate cause. Joseph Kony came to power over the Lord's Resistance Army in the mid-1980s, and the peak of his power was in the late 80s and early 90s. He is no longer in Uganda and has not been for the past 6 years. He is currently isolated, alone, hiding, and his army, which is barely 250 members strong, has abandoned him. He is no longer the great, horrendous threat to humanity that the Kony 2012 campaign makes him out to be. If you are going to endorse a cause, know the facts and know the operation. Otherwise, you could be supporting an illegitimate cause, which may seem like it's making a significant positive impact in the world, when it's really just using social networking and the sales of its own merchandise to make money for themselves. Activism is not taking part in media networking or divulging in trendy merchandise and supporting marketing scams. And what does shirts, bumper stickers, buttons, and jewelry even do to support a cause? What do they do to stop evil crimes? What do they do to help those in need? And while going to the store to buy a poster may be more active than demanding justice on your Facebook page from the comfortable confines of your own couch, it still has no significant impact. How horribly lazy is it to retweet a video or like a status or order a shirt and then call yourself an activist or tell people that you have made a difference in the world or that you are taking part to help stop cruelty and injustice and that they should do the same? When in actuality, as said by apologetic author and speaker Michael Craven, you did an act that literally took mere seconds and has little to no impact in terms of meaningful activity that actually makes a difference. All you did was give yourself a false sense of self-importance and self-righteousness so you could feel good, and now you're teeming with pride at your new sense of social aptitude. Simply stated, media networking, marketing, merchandise, and awareness alone without resulting action is all pointless. And those who participate in only social media campaigns and things like the Kony 2012 Action Kit are falsely calling themselves activists. They are slacktivists. Coined by Dwight Ozard and Fred Clark in 1995, the term slacktivism refers to a lazy type of not really activism. Political writer and researcher Evgeny Morvo states, it refers to a feel-good online activism that has zero political or social impact. It gives those who participate in slacktivist campaigns an illusion of having meaningful impact on the world without demanding anything more than maybe joining a Facebook group. Slacktivism is the ideal type of activism for a lazy generation. Why bother with sit-ins and the risk of arrest or police brutality when you can be nearly just as loud campaigning on virtual space? Slacktivists do nothing of consequence. They want to support a cause or make a difference in the world or do something positive, but they don't want to risk police encounters or potential imprisonment or extended ridicule or taking the tiniest bit out of their busy schedule and sacrificing it to something other than their own selfish desires. Now, if this is modern day society form of activism, which is really just lazy, self-righteous slacktivism, what does real activism look like? Or what should it look like? Ultimately, activism is the life that God has called us to live, and the ministry we are called to as followers of Christ. As Christians, we are sanctified through Christ, set apart and consecrated by God. Christ preaches in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5 that we are the salt of the earth. We are the light of the world, and we are to let our light shine that others may see our good works and that it may glorify our Father in heaven. We are made different through God. We are made to stand up and shine in the darkness of the world and to share the teachings of the gospel and to share God's love. One of the greatest forms of activism is through the Great Commission or missionary work. Jesus tells us that we are to be fishers of men and that we are to go out and make disciples of all the nations. However, pursuing missions in a remote tribal village in Cambodia is not the only way to have an active Christian life. And there's so much more that we can do, and not even things that are limited to feeding the hungry or sheltering the homeless or caring for the sick or the needy and providing for the orphan or the widow, though these are great acts of service. If we do all things out of our love for God, to serve God and to glorify God, then we will be bringing him praise through our life. But we do not need to do this in a way that modern activists would do it, by posting over our Facebook pages and Twitter or telling all of our friends about it. God shows us in Matthew 6 that we should not do good or righteous acts so that we can be honored, praised, or even acknowledged by fellow man. If you are truly serving, you do not need man's recognition to feel fulfilled in your work. Service is satisfying and gratifying because you are showing God's love to others. You are fulfilling your calling as a Christian and fulfilling the good works that God has set out for you to do. Perhaps the perfect example of and the epitome of a Christian activist is the Apostle Paul. Once he became a believer, Paul was almost immediately active and scarcely stopped. He toured on missionary campaigns, teaching and preaching everywhere he went to everyone he met, performing miracles, caring for the sick and the needy, maintaining relationships with fellow disciples, encouraging and holding churches and fellow believers accountable for their faith. And though Paul was persecuted, thrown in jail, placed on trial, nearly stoned, almost killed on several occasions, and faced many other trials for his faith, he never stopped. He never stopped sharing the word of God. He never stopped spreading Christ's love. We are called to live this kind of life, and we are called to live by this kind of faith. We are called to be an activist for Christ, to love God and to love others, and to glorify God in all things that we do. Now, I'm not saying that you absolutely have to be thrown in jail or you absolutely have to be stoned to death in order to prove that you are a good Christian activist. But if you are leading an active Christian life, there will be sacrifices and there will be persecutions. And these should not be a surprise. Christ was persecuted, and as followers of Christ, we are going to be persecuted as well. Jesus says in Matthew 5:10-12, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. If we are truly being light to the world and serving others and living a life glorifying to God, it will be evident by our actions and our lives, not just by our Facebook posts or the clothes we wear. I am urging you to not be like the lazy, self-righteous Coney 2012 supporters and slacktivists of today's society, but to be true activists and take action. One way you can do this is by maybe becoming a political activist. How would you do this? You would develop a relationship with your representative, whether it's the city council or state congressman. You attend his meetings, you listen to what he has to say, you understand what he stands for. You write letters to him, you talk with him, and you discuss with him. Now, how do you become a Christian activist? First, you have to have a relationship with God. You attend his meetings, you will listen to what he has to say, understand his statements and what he stands for, talk with him and discuss with him. And once you have a relationship with God, you will be able to fulfill the works that he has set out for you to do. You will be able to glorify him in all things that you do. And once you have a relationship with God, then you can be an activist for Christ, a disciple of God, sanctified through Christ, actively serving and loving others. Thank you.